Hey guys, what's up? I wanted to make a video that I feel is important and I think will add value to the conversation in people deconstructing from what they call Christianity, or in America, Western Evangelicalism, or American Western Evangelicalism. I have been perusing through a book called Dissolving the Ego and Realizing the Self by David Hawkins, Dr. David Hawkins. And David Hawkins has written monumental works on consciousness, the structure of the ego, and how that plays out in different contexts in people's life, and especially in regards to politics, social, economic, cultural, egoic frameworks, also religious, right? How the ego plays itself out in religion. Being someone who has deconstructed multiple times from Christianity, in reading through this book, I've been getting so many reminders of what is actually at play when we're talking about Western evangelicalism. Essentially, what we're seeing is this projection of superiority through Western evangelicalism, right? We have to evangelize the world. The world's going to hell in a handbasket. We have all the truth. Everyone else is a lie. Everyone else is false or, deceived by the devil. And we're the crusaders for what is actually true. And we have a monopoly on absolute truth, while everyone else is, they're SOL when it comes to matters of spirituality or eternity or heaven or hell. What you're seeing is, and this has been my experience, and this has been something that has come into my own understanding as I've done inner work and gone through the process of analyzing and observing my ego and noticing the triggers, noticing the automatic go-tos for my ego. Essentially, behind Western evangelicalism's projection of superiority is the ugly monster of the caricature of God as a petulant, petty, narcissistic, self-aggrandizing monster in which the universe centers around. And the point of your existence is that you can bring worship and honor and glory and praise to this narcissistic, self-centered, petulant deity. If you don't do it the right way, then you are threatened with an eternity of torture and punishment and excruciating torment. Okay, so what does that do? If you subscribe to that narrative that places you in a fight, flight, or freeze response, if you're not being conscious of what's at play, right? And so there's a trickle down from a theology that states that God is that way, and then props up scholars and books and entire collective minds, hive minds, to perpetuate and give credence and authority to these particular ideas. When someone enters into the system unknowingly, if they're not conscious and aware of their ego and the mechanism and the construct and the function of ego in others, they can easily be caught into the system and churned out with abuse and a bunch of other things. And for me, the petulant, self-centered, angry God archetype that we see in Western evangelicalism was a mirror of my childhood and my caretakers, okay? One was distant and not present and was self-centered on his own needs, and the other one, same but in a different way, right? And this isn't to stir up anything. It's just to state my experience of my caretakers growing up. And so it developed within me a codependency, naturally, to please, to comply, and to be responsible for the emotions of others. And so when I came across this supposed deity who loves me but will threaten eternal, infinite abuse on me if I don't comply or conform, I immediately took to it, not realizing that the trauma, my conditioning into codependency as a result of narcissistic abuse as a child, really set up the work. It really set me up perfectly to take the bait, hook, line, and sinker when it comes to this particular framework of the deity of Western evangelicalism. And so throughout the years, there was this massive process of understanding psychology, doing inner work, even experimenting with psychedelic journeys in an intentional spiritual way to begin to look within and find why it is I do what I do, why my ego reacts the way that it reacts, why do I have the beliefs that I have. I spent tons of money and a bunch of contemplation and time on my ego and observing it, deconstructing it, and then reconstructing it, right? The ego is not a bad thing. It's something that you can use as a tool. It's neutral. But a lot of us are not aware that when we tap into the ego, we can unconsciously identify with all of the ego's fabrications, all of the narratives and stories and identifications that the ego produces by its nature for self-protection and for building a template for survival in the world. We can easily identify with that mechanism of survival and then, think that we're that thing. And that's where the problem can arise, okay? And so when you're looking at the collective consciousness of a Western evangelical group, right? I'm projecting my sense of or perception of superiority because truly, inwardly, I feel inferior. And the reason why is because I'm constantly, by this invalidating and guilt and shame-inducing community, and being told how awful and wretched and inherently not good I am. And this comes from a book that is holy writ, and it is the actual very words of God that we cannot question in any sense of the word, no matter any perceived contradictions or inconsistencies with this book. You must comply to it, because if you don't, then you risk an eternity of eternal torture and suffering in fire, literal flames. Wow, that's pretty heavy. So that is what's behind it, right? And like Father God, right? Like many folks don't have a template for a healthy, functional, loving, relational context with their relationship with their father. I was one of those people. And so truly I filtered God through my experience of what I thought a father was. And in our society, father represents authority, masculinity. You gotta listen to your dad, right? And so setting up God as father in Western evangelicalism, along with the abusive and petulant, the pettiness of this Western evangelical deity, it elicits an autonomic, socially conditioned response of submission and surrender, because that's what we were taught to do to fathers. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not making it bad or wrong. But it is bad and wrong when we frame up the entirety of the message of Western evangelicalism in the context of abuse, and we sanction it and give it the blue check of because it's God, and God can do whatever he wants, which then trickles down into, well, if God can do whatever we want, and I'm a part of God's chosen flock, and God gets to do whatever he wants, by proxy, human beings like to get away with the most that they can, without being held accountable for it, especially on a larger consciousness scale, collective consciousness scale, where there isn't free thought. It's easy for Western evangelicalism to abuse and suppress and objectify others that are not like it, right? Because if God can do whatever he wants, and I'm a part of the chosen group, then that means by proxy I can do whatever I want to some extent, and somehow justify it with my book. And when I do that, I'm fully justified in what I do, no matter the context or the level of the abuse that I elicit or put upon other people. And so this is just a quick little morning whimsical analysis, in a sense, of the ego behind Western evangelicalism. The elitism or the projection of spiritual elitism or superiority is truly a cover. It's a mask for the inferiority that is experienced and sensed throughout the entire culture as a result of being told that they are inherently bad and wrong, so is everyone else. But they're good because they are, or somewhat good, right? You have no goodness within yourself. The only reason why you're good is because, Jesus stepped in your place and got abused for you, so that you wouldn't get abused for eternity. And this idea that it's justice for something temporal or finite, an infinite punishment for a finite offense, is absolutely ridiculous. But again, I digress. We're going back to the main point of Western evangelicalism being that it's really a collective of echo chambering paradigm of fear, right? Like, if the source of my existence truly doesn't like me and I'm born inherently flawed, and unless I jump through all the hoops to be acceptable, I mean, do you get what I mean? Do you get where this is coming? I mean, I can't recall the amount of times I felt not enough as a kid, right, to my caretakers, and unless I jumped through the hoops or made myself responsible for their mood or their feelings, right? And it's almost as if in Western evangelicalism, it's framed up to where we are responsible to keep God happy, because he's really pissed off and mad about our behaviors, and that's the only thing he can focus on. My time's about to end, but yeah, if you like this video, subscribe to the YouTube, like it, please share it if it has brought any value to you. I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.